It is Monday, June 7th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very, very educational get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Yes, I got my ass kicked, and yes, I did learn a lot. As a matter of fact, I swear it's like Christmas. Every day at Jiu-Jitsu is like Christmas. I can't explain it, but it's like I talk about it on the show, and next thing I know, bam, I got more of it than I know what to do with. And so this morning we covered takedowns, and I learned one really neat one. And I'm not going to go into detail about it because that's like a secret weapon kind of thing. But I just will say that it's a really keen reversal, and it's got a lot to do with your body mechanics as you're resetting from each attempt. Yeah, good stuff. Definitely good stuff. Although I did feel there were a couple points where I did kind of disagree with the people that I was working with, only because I'm very efficiency oriented. As much smash as I put on things and pressure as I put on things, it's because of efficiency, and a lot of times it's not as targeted as I would like it to be, and I am working on that. Although I did kind of catch a gentleman this morning in a interesting choke situation, and I swear I've got the worst bug in my fucking lapel choke game, where I keep grabbing the wrong grip for the first grip. Like for this particular choke, if I had gotten an underhanded grip on his lapel and then pushed it up to his neck, I would have easily have been able to zipper choke him. I had a grip on both lapels. If I would have had the correct grip, I also could have gotten in a what's that choke? I can't remember the name of it, but X choke or something like that. Anyway, yeah. So I just loop choke. That's what it is. I could have worked a loop choke, and I did not. And like I said, there's just something about chokes that I really got to work on that first grip and securing and committing to the style of choke that I want to do. Because like on Sunday, I went in. And it's really the only reason I didn't go in this evening. I went in this morning at 6 a.m. And in all honesty, it fucked up my entire day. I mean, I was sleepy, I was tired, I really had a lot of trouble getting my ass off the ground. So, I don't know how many more of those open mats at 6 a.m. I'm going to be doing, but I will say this, the alternative about it, the great thing about it was that it was pretty much a private lesson between me and two guys. Of course, they were higher belts than I was, so of course they were doing most of the teaching. And, but like there was one takedown that I worked from a. It's like if you have yourself and your opponent are in just like standard step, not southpaw or anything like that. Just a traditional stance facing one another. If you get a hold of your opponent's, say, left, with your left hand, you grab their right sleeve, right? And you pull. Well, as they pull back, you go for their lead leg, and so you definitely want to be pulling over their left leg, or their lead leg. And so for me, if I were standing in a standard non-southpaw position, it would be me reaching forward with my right hand and grabbing his left sleeve, or her left sleeve, as the case may be, and pulling them to me, right? And so by doing that, they want to pull back. And so as they pull back, you step to the outside of the left leg, and you reach down and just hook the knee, and the person goes over. I mean, it's not a whole lot of work to it, But like they were doing this one where you kind of gotta force your opponent to go around by the drag, and okay, I mean, I can see there being some application for it, especially if I've got a really energetic opponent. But the problem I saw with it was that it required a lot of effort. It required a lot of effort that I felt you can neutralize just by stepping in. Stepping out around the outside leg that your opponent is pivoting on, and like roll into it and just sweep them. But it also made me reflect about an interesting takedown I got this weekend on a gentleman who then summarily kicked my ass for the next 3 or 4 minutes. But I got him down in a really interesting way, because like he likes to open with collar chokes. Like, I mean, he'll immediately just like grab on one of your fucking lapels and like try and pull you in by it to try and secure the other one and get that loop choke in. But I figured an interesting way to deal with it. So what I did was I took my left hand and I grabbed his left lapel and I pulled him in really tight to me. And I noticed as I was pulling him in where his legs were. And so what I did was I took my right leg and I hooked it around the back of his left leg and just straightened it out and pushed him by the hand that I had the lapel on. And he had no choice but to go down, because I mean, in doing that you're pretty much going down, right? And so it's just your weight on their weight, and they don't have anything holding them up anymore, so that they go down. And it was really interesting, because I've had similar sweeps pulled on me like 8 billion times, and I could never get the mechanics of it right, or the proper setup for it. But I think I'm starting to finally click in a little bit with regard to takedowns. I definitely need to spend a few more years just working nothing but takedowns, but nonetheless, I feel like it is coming into a mild focus, at least. It's a little bit fuzzy around the edges still. Still got to work on that originating grip, whether it be overhand or underhand. And it's still challenging for me. And actually, that choke that I was talking about was a baseball bat choke, not a cross choke. Yeah, baseball bat choke. And see, that was another one that I missed. When I did get in a dominant position with my opponent, I did have a really deep grip on his lapel, but like I said, I had an overhand grip on his lapel, and so when I was pulling it up, I wasn't putting enough pressure on his either lapel or either side of the lapel or against his neck. Now, see, if I had turned my hand over, okay, and gotten an underhand grip on that lapel, and then pulled it, I wouldn't have had to pull it like a half an inch. And just the back of your hand, and bottom of your arm, when you put that surface against somebody's neck, it conforms a lot more to the groove of their neck than the top of your thumb and the top of your forearm. I mean, there are chokes where that's applicable, specifically like guillotines and stuff like that, and of course the loop choke. But unfortunately, that's the wrong grip for like a zipper choke or a baseball bat choke. Well, I don't know. It would be the opposite with that, where like for a baseball bat choke, it would be overhand on the right lapel, and then underhand on the right lapel, and overhand on the left lapel, and that's how you tighten that one up. I could have gotten that one too. I wouldn't have even had to get the lapel. I could have just reached up and grabbed his shoulder and gotten that one today. But no, I was so intent on getting in this just regular lapel choke that it zipped right by my head. And I even lost him for a moment, where he managed to get his chin up under the lapel, but I managed to negate that and guide it back under his chin. And I could tell I had him kind of close, only because his face got really, really red. But I did not close it off, man. I should have had the right grip, and that would have closed that up and tied up that choke just as well as I wanted to. Nonetheless, I did surprise myself quite a bit going against this opponent. Although I'll admit freely, I ended up in a cardio tap. He really pushed my limits, and it's impressive as hell because the guy's like 60 pounds lighter than me. So, I mean, I can't help it. Tip my hat to him because of how dynamic and athletic he is. And he's fucking strong. You know, he's smaller than me, but he's fucking strong. So, you know, I can't take anything away from him. It's definitely one of those Yoda things where, you know, size matters not. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, I'm not entirely certain. I got a bunch of tabs as usual, but, you know, it's like Twitter will constantly throw me for a loop. You know, I'll have something all planned out, and then I'll be on a music break, and I'll look back on Twitter, and then something that's just like ground shaking fucking hits. Oh fuck, I gotta cover that one instead. But I would imagine that we're going to be talking a little bit about Ethereum Classic's reorganization issue that was brought to light by Coinbase. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down into some music. And as far as what to start off with, you know, I've been breaking it out with body count for a little while. I want to change it up a little bit today. So, I don't know. I guess, here, Corrosion of Conformity, Echoes in the Well, here on CoinMetal. And that was Prong with Home Rule. Yeah. So as far as what we're going to cover today, I didn't even have an opportunity to get all situated. Had to deal with a big old plate of French fries. But yeah, I do have a couple things that I wanted to cover today. And the biggest one so far as my Twitter feed has been showing me at least, has been Ethereum Classic. Apparently they had some issue earlier on, I suppose a couple hours ago, or I don't know, probably about 6 or 7 by now, where they were experiencing a 51% attack. And, you know, this does happen on occasion, and there are some people that would throw a fit about it, but I have this to say, that if it couldn't be 51% attacked, it's not an open public network. And unlike a lot of other ventures, it's actually legal to do it in cryptocurrencies. It's not exactly the greatest thing, but if it can be shown to be an actual theft, yeah, that's a criminal activity, and we do have laws against that. However, it is the nature of our game here. And it's something that I think a lot of people forget when they're talking about, oh, let's layer this and layer that on top of it. You don't understand, man. If it ever gets to be worth it to somebody to attack it, somebody going to attack it, and then you're going to be fucked. GR Bufu all over again. But I do have some other stuff. And this one in particular, I'm kind of interested in, even though it's got this fucking shit on it. I want to check to see if it's just an aggregated article. Let's see here. I don't know if I'm actually going to follow this one. It's kind of short, and like I said, I get the impression that it's actually aggregated from somewhere else. So I'm not all that interested in publicizing where I found it. Oh, but this one is something I've been hearing about as well today. And apparently there's a discrepancy. And I'm not going to go to the original source because it's the Wall Street Journal, a new report. But anyway, here it is. And this one is not crypto related, but it is. See, I think that the whole realm of the oil industry has been corrupted by the relationship with the U.S. dollar, or at least the Federal Reserve note, as we know it. It's been used as a tool for manipulating the price of oil and so on and so forth. But there's been this underlying assumption in the background, and that's that we would keep producing a significant amount of oil, and that we would be able to do so into the near to distant future. And the big money has been putting all of its chips on fracking. Now, fracking has some benefits in that it's a quick return. You splash the fluid down there, you suck it back out, you get the oil out of it, and then you're good to go. The problem is that the process of fracking is trying to harvest the small bits of oil that are trapped in the walls of the original deposit area. That's like that's tantamount to scraping your bowl for fucking resin and smoking that to get high. Okay, and you all know how that works out. Doesn't taste all that good. Doesn't get you all that high for all that long. Well, fracking is identical. Okay, because it's not the prime crude that we want, and we get the most use out of. And there have been some that have gone so far as to suggest that it's actually more energy intensive to get the oil back out of the fracking fluid after you've extracted it and pumped that shit down in there to begin with. That is actually more energy intensive than the value of the oil that you extract out of the process. And this is kind of an indicator of that, I think. It's on zerohedge.com. U.S. fracking wells are producing far less than forecast. And this is by Tyler Durden, authored Monday, 7th January 7th, 2019 at 12:19. According to a new report by the Wall Street Journal, thousands of shale oil wells that have been drilled over the last 5 years are pumping less than what was forecast to investors. The new discovery has raised questions about the strength behind the United States' newfound supply of shale oil. The WSJ compares well productivity estimates that were disclosed to investors versus public data of how these wells have performed to date. After analyzing 15,000 wells operated by 29 producers in places like North Dakota and the Permian Basin, the journal found that about 66% of projections made by companies between 2014 and 2017 are reportedly overly optimistic. As previously discussed, U.S. shale boom has been one of the main reasons the U.S. has become a major oil superpower over the last few years, while trimming the U.S. reliance on foreign oil to virtually nothing. But now, shale drillers are under pressure to cut spending as oil prices have cratered almost 50% in the last 3 months. Wow. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. Imagine, if you will, if the price of oil was not, how should we say it, manipulated down to half, down 50% over the last 3 months. I mean, that's a significant bump in supply or a significant drop in demand, probably a collision of the two. Or a collision, rather. But anyway, what that should tell you is that imagine, if you will, for a moment, what the price of gas would be if that hadn't gone down in the last 3 months. That means you'd probably be paying 50% more than you currently are right now. And so if your oil is about, $2.50 to $2.70, maybe even up to $3, that could potentially be between the $4 and $6 range if the price of oil did not go down. Continuing on. Two companies that operate in the Permian Basin, Pioneer Natural Resources Company and Parsley Energy, are among the main culprits, lagging behind forecasts. The analysts excluded several oil conglomerates like Exxon because they didn't make shale projections. That said, Pioneer and Parsley disputed the report's findings, saying that the lifespan of wells was different from forecasts, while other companies, like Whiting Petroleum Corp., simply stated that the forecasts can be unreliable and that they were going to move away from providing them. Certainly an easy thing to say now that these investments have been made. Another driller, Oasis Petroleum Inc., tried to hide behind accounting-style excuses, stating about projections, quote, "It's not a science, it's more of an art." Bullshit. Yeah, that's why you send geologists out there to do assays of the ground, because, it's an art. Anyway, continuing on. Prior to the shale boom of 2007, oil companies were valued close to their reserves. Now, these companies on average are valued almost 3 times higher. It is no secret that shale companies have taken a significant amount of capital from Wall Street over the last 10 years, mostly in the form of junk bonds, and investors have mostly lost money. Since 2008, an index of U.S.-based oil and gas companies was down 43%, while the stock market has doubled in the same time. The article examined 29 companies which collectively spent $112 billion more in cash than they have generated from operations over the last decade. Meanwhile, estimates given to investors were sometimes extrapolated from only the best performing wells. Other companies excluded their worst performing wells from the calculations. Texas A&M University professor John Lee, an expert on calculating oil and gas reserves, stated, quote, "There are a number of practices that are almost inevitably going to lead to overestimates." When Lee gave a presentation in Houston past July, highlighting methods that could produce more accurate forecasts, one engineer jokingly stated that their companies weren't using his methods because, quote, "they owned their company's stock." Meaning they know that, and now we know that they would tank hard if they actually used methods that would accurately reflect the estimated production projections for a set of wells or a company. Yeah. Let's see what the reactions are on this thing. Here we go. Joseph Solon says this is a good example of why anything published by Mr. Bezos WSJ is unreliable and nonsensical. These are forecasts, Jeff, not foreskins, with respect to your schmucky leaders, which are more predictable. They can vary, and mostly actually do vary. That is what normally happens in business. If you're duplicitous and you don't bother to count the negative numbers, if you lie, people talk about bringing blockchain to shit. Let me tell you something. People don't want blockchain and shit. Because if there is an immutable record of shit, all of a sudden all these bullshit fudge factors that they factor in aren't going to work anymore. Because we're going to be asking for all the fucking data. And the geologists who did the study will probably be funded by some sort of cryptocurrency company or cryptocurrency, in which case they would be more compelled to disclose, yeah, these were our actual assay results. We did core samples and we checked out their constituency, and this is what we came up with, and this is the estimate that we have for the production of this particular deposit. Okay, you try registering all your results on a quote-unquote blockchain that anybody has any real access to, and assuming that you are, of course, using it publicly or allowing it to be used publicly, and we can tell what the transactions are and what they actually represent, and we can see the associated information. When somebody goes blowing smoke up our ass with a bunch of hyperinflated numbers, we can tell them to walk the fuck back out again, because we actually have records of the assays, and we have a generalized idea of exactly how much oil we can extract from there. And we don't need your fucking help. So yeah, people lie, and if you lie to a blockchain, it'll lie for you. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the things we're going to be covering today, because it seems kind of epic. And I'm trying to find it. Where is it? No, it's not that one. No, it's not that one. No, it's not that one. Ooh, but that's something we might want to cover today. And no, that's not one. That's just definitely maybe one. And I don't want that. Damn it, Jim. I'm trying to find this fucking article. And no, we don't want that one. Well, maybe we might go this one. And no, not that one. Man, I got so many tabs open, I don't even know. And I'm not going to go over that one. No, we're not going to get into that one, or that one, or that one. By golly gee. You know what I really hate is when I have to go back and open up a bunch of frickin' tabs. Classic. Coinbase. And let's see, news. Here we go. And we'll start with this one. Actually, let's do them sequentially, because although they seem to be from separate angles. Fuck it. The first one we're going to cover is on CryptoPotato.com. Coinbase detects 51% attack on Ethereum Classic, ETC, included more than $450,000 in double spends. And this is by Toju Omotorua. My apologies, sir. But yes, from the picture and the name, penis. This is authored on January 7th, 2019 at 11:35 UTC. A deep chain reorganization of the Ethereum Classic has been detected by Coinbase and reported on their blog. The reorganization included a double spend, which forced Coinbase to pause movement of funds on the ETC blockchain, or at least their funds. Following the suspension, at least 8 other reorganizations that include double spends were detected. The total amount of funds implicated in the double spend attack is 88,500 ETC, $460,000. What is a chain reorganization? Chain reorganization occurs when a single miner has more resources than the entirety of the rest of the network, allowing them to pick an arbitrary previous block from which to extend an alternative block history. The miner can then outpace the block history produced by the rest of the network and redefine it as they see fit. A chain reorganization becomes harmful when a miner owns a large number of coins and decides to manipulate the system with malicious intent. According to Coinbase, quote, the miner could send those coins to a merchant in a transaction T while also secretly extending an alternative block history. The miner's secret blocks do not include T, but rather include a transaction that sends the same coins used in T to a different address. Double spend attack, yep. This would necessarily create a double spend problem, allowing the miner to extract coins out of thin air without a sender or recipient who isn't them. Coinbase is currently monitoring the Ethereum Classic blockchain to determine when it is safe to interact with it once again. No. And I guess they haven't yet. Yeah, and so there you have it. Apparently there was a 51% attack on Ethereum Classic. And I did manage to dig up the Coinbase blog about it. Now I did see one plausible explanation of it, whereby Ethereum Classic was saying that somebody was working with some ETH hash ASICs on their network, and so that could I don't know. But let's check this out. This is from Coinbase's blog itself. And it's on blog.coinbase.com. Deep chain reorganization detected on Ethereum Classic. On January 5th, 2019, Coinbase detected a deep chain reorganization of the Ethereum Classic blockchain that included a double spend. In order to protect customer funds, we immediately paused movements of these funds on the Ethereum Classic blockchain. Subsequent to this event, we detected 8 additional reorganizations that included double spends totaling 88,500 Ethereum Classic. Note, we will continue to monitor the status of the network and update this article with the most recent information we have. Current Ethereum Classic network status can be found here. Let's check it. And let's see if they're back up. It is still disabled on Coinbase, so we don't know what that really means. Background info, page 3 of Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, states the following. If a majority of CPU power is controlled by honest nodes, the honest chain will grow the fastest and outpace any competing chains. The honesty of more than half of the miners is a core requirement for the security of Bitcoin and any other proof-of-work cryptocurrency based on Bitcoin. Hey, just a side note, I want y'all to really contemplate this line here, okay? Because it flies in the face of a lot of assertions of a lot of punk-ass little bitches that have been all over Twitter and other social media platforms. Here it is. The honesty of more than half the miners is a core requirement for the security of Bitcoin and any proof-of-work cryptocurrencies based on Bitcoin. Now, did you hear that? He was already contemplating, while he was writing this motherfucking white paper, that there would be competing versions of Bitcoin out there, i.e. altcoins. So anybody that talks to you about maximalism or extremism or whatever, you can just give him the big old fucking bird, because Satoshi Nakamoto himself envisioned that Bitcoin would be in an arena competing with other cryptocurrencies. And let's see, somebody messaged me here. Let's see, either way, master of your own destiny. Don't get me wrong, I think about them, blah, 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 not as simple. Oh, that's different. We'll talk about that later, man. Anyway, so continuing on. Let's see. Honest action in this context means following the behavior described in the Bitcoin white paper. This is sometimes described as a security risk or an attack vector, but it is more accurately described as a known limitation of the proof-of-work model. Failure to meet this requirement breaks several core guarantees of the Bitcoin protocol including the irreversibility of transactions. Many other cryptocurrencies... Wait a minute. I don't think we're in the same quote here. Oh, I'm sorry. That thing that I was attributing to the white paper wasn't actually in the white paper. I thought it was a continued quote here. But I do recall having heard or read somewhere that he was in fact well aware of the possibility that Bitcoin would develop competition and did recommend it as the best state of the market. Anyway, continuing on. Failure to meet this requirement breaks several core guarantees of the Bitcoin protocol, including irreversibility of transactions. Many other cryptocurrencies, such as Ethereum Classic, have also adopted proof-of-work mining. Also Ethereum. The function of mining is to add transactions to the universal shared transaction history known as the blockchain. This is done by producing blocks, mining blocks that is, which are bundles of transactions, and defining the canonical history of transactions as the longest chain of blocks. Actually, that's a redefinition right there. The original intent was as received, transactions as received. And I don't know if that's exactly what they mean by canonical here, but anyway, continuing on. If a single miner has more resources than the entirety of the rest of the network, this miner could pick an arbitrary previous block from which to extend an alternative block history, eventually outpacing the block history produced by the rest of the network and defining a new canonical transaction history. And something to that point, apparently recently Bitcoin Cash SV had a 108 megabyte block. I have yet to hear anybody tell me that those transactions actually went out to the mempool, was received by all the fucking network, and everybody was competing to build that block. See, I'm pretty sure that just like the last time they pulled an overlarge block like that they just submitted the whole fucking block at once to the rest of the network. Anyway, continuing on. This on its own might end up being nothing more than a minor inconvenience. After all, the transactions all still exist, but they might have been put into a different order, perhaps delaying some of them. However, imagine a miner who owns a large number of coins. That miner could send those coins to a merchant in a transaction T, while also secretly extending an alternative block history. The miner's secret blocks do not include T, but rather include a transaction that sends the same coins used in T to a different address. Call that transaction T. When the miner reveals this secret history, it will contain lowercase t, not uppercase t. Because lowercase t and uppercase t attempted to send the same coins, and uppercase t is now in the canonical history, this means that t is forever invalid, and the recipient of the coins sent in the transaction T never even received them in the new, now canonical history. More information on that can be found here, and we're not going to go in there. What we observed. We observed repeated deep reorganizations of the Ethereum Classic blockchain, most of which contain double spends. The total value of the double spends that we have observed thus far is 88,500 Ethereum Classic. Note, a full blockchain analysis is beyond the scope of this article. Further research into the addresses sending the double spend transactions, the history of the sends/receives from the addresses, and the block fields such as timestamp and subsequent movement of miner rewards from attack blocks may shed light on the threat actor or actors behind these attacks. And again, we are assuming, of course, that these were intentional actual attacks and not something due to, say, aversion to similarity or, some such going on between, if there is any validity to it, the ETH miners that were ASIC miners that were supposedly mining then, and the rest of the network. I can imagine where it might cause some issues. Anyway, continuing on. We observed the following deep chain reorgs, and I'm not going to go through there because they go through all 8 of them, and they tell you like all kinds of stuff about them. Next steps. The Coinbase team is currently evaluating the safety of re-enabling sends and receives of Ethereum Classic, and will communicate to our customers what to expect regarding support for Ethereum Classic. Coinbase takes security very seriously. As part of that commitment, we monitor blockchains for activity that could be harmful to our customers and take prompt action to safeguard funds. We want to emphasize to customers that Coinbase strives to be the most trusted platform, blah, 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 blah. Oh, let's see. There's some annotations in here, but we're going to skip right over those, see what the responses are. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, we're not going to cover that one. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think that we are going to experience more attacks as long as we seek to push mining into some sort of periphery that's handled by some large global entity that, you know, just does it all for us, right? And we just stack our bullshit on top of their proof of work, and everything is just going to be fine because it's MasterCard or Visa's work or Goldman Sachs's work, and you know, everything's fine. You know, they're never going to pull a deep reorg attack on us after they get full encapsulation of the production of those blocks. No, they would never do that. Talking about the same entities that created the necessity for cryptocurrencies. What do you fucking think they're going to do if they get in a dominant position? But fortunately for us, choice is still the motivating factor behind your decision to support a specific cryptocurrency or project. You know, it's like if it, and I think the ability to choose, you know, when, if, how, the greater that is for your users and your miners and so on and so forth, the better off you are. The higher chance of success you actually have. See, I keep seeing all these attempts to trying to corral this shit away in privatized boxes that we can't get into, and they're all opaque as fucking bank accounts, and that's somehow gonna change or improve anything about this space, when we all know it won't. Those of us who have been around a while know that that's exactly the kind of model that we migrated over here to get away from. You know, and those that hold this illusion that you're going to be able to do everything that banks can do with funds and whatnot in the way that they do it, you know, is in having custody of customer funds and shit like that, and counterpartying customer transactions. I'm sorry to tell you, you are not going to be able to do that. You know, just as this latest attack on Ethereum Classic shows that even entrenched projects can be attacked, just imagine when it's worth it to attack, say, a Lightning Network payment channel initiating a transaction. You know, maybe there's enough Bitcoin locked up in it, and there's a means to get it to spend to another address. Imagine all the work that's piled on top of it. How that just goes away because the underlying collateral gets sucked right out from under everybody. You know, it's not a matter of if something will get hacked, it's a matter of when it will. And that includes Bitcoin. And there have been and continue to be several attacks on it every year. A lot of them from the inside, by the way. But just because they don't make the news like Ethereum Classic's hack has, doesn't mean that they don't happen. And it doesn't mean that Bitcoin is somehow safe from it. Sorry, it isn't. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I want some sixth. So here it is. Vivid, here on Coin Metal. And that was Machine Head with Now I Lay Thee Down. Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure what's going to go on with Machine Head. Apparently they have had a disruption in their overall form. And from what I understand, I guess Mr. Demel, Phil Demel, is now working with Slayer. I don't know if that's like 100% or what. It seems like I could swear I heard something about Gary Holt going back to Exodus, but that's not something that I want to promulgate prematurely, you know. So I don't take it as truth, but that's just what I understand at the moment. Anyway, I got this article here, and this one kind of brought a smile on my face, and I want to go into it, but I want to make sure that we've extinguished all that we had about Ethereum, or Ethereum Classic rather. And now it looks like we pretty much, I don't know, it's some additional stuff on here. So here it is, and this one's on Coindesk.com. Coinbase suspends Ethereum Classic after blockchain history rewrites. And this is by Nicholas D. and Christine Kim. So I'm going to assume yes, penis, and no. And this is authored on January 7th, 2019 at 8:19 p.m. UTC. Crypto exchange Coinbase has halted all Ethereum Classic transactions, withdrawals, and deposits due to a series of blockchain history reorganizations on the network. Ethereum Classic saw more than 100 blocks reorganized during a potential 51% attack late Sunday, according to at least two different block explorers, Bitfly, Etherchain, and Block Scout. Coinbase said in its blog post that it detected some 88,500 ETC being double spent, totaling some $460,000. Media publication CoinS reported Monday that an in-house analyst had detected an abnormal hash rate or computation energy going into a single mining pool, potentially causing mass reorgs of mined blocks. Though initially refuted by core proponents behind Ethereum Classic on Twitter, the official account has now affirmed a potential cause for concern, tweeting out, "We are now working with Slow Mist and many others in the crypto community. We recommend exchanges and pools significantly increase confirmation times." Slow Mist, a Chinese-based security firm, first alerted users of the strange activity occurring on the network Monday morning, stating that its team was trying to trace the cause of the attack. Slow Mist did not immediately respond in requests for comment. Recent reports from CoinNest stated, quote, certain abnormality had been detected in the mining hash rate of a private Ethereum Classic mining pools. That goes along with that theory of somebody lighting up some ETH hash miners, some ASIC class miners on the Ethereum Classic network. Anyway, continuing on. Disputed accounts. The duration of the attack seems to be in dispute. Block Scout reported block reorganizations occurring at 2 UTC and at 6 UTC Monday, while Bitfly said in a tweet at 5 UTC that the attack was potentially, quote, ongoing. In its note, Coinbase wrote that the, quote, attacks are ongoing. Block Scout project lead Andrew Cravenho affirmed to CoinDesk that although the recent recorded reorg attack was seen 14 hours ago, the network is constantly, quote, fluctuating, and people are always switching their hashing power, suggesting the potential for continued disruption under, quote, the perfect circumstances. He also noted that the reorg may have begun before being noted on Block Scout. In a blog post, Coinbase said it first noticed the reorg on January 5th, 2 days before the other reorg's reports began. My apologies, sir. And though reiterating to CoinDesk that, quote, indeed, a huge reorg took place on the Ethereum Classic blockchain, Cravenho's explanation of the event as a 51% attack is not widely agreed upon. In an email to CoinDesk, Ethereum Classic dev advisor Cody Burns said the activity could not be labeled a 51% attack, but rather a, quote, selfish mining attack caused by a client local phenomenon. He added in a post on Twitter that, quote, the entire Ethereum network doesn't reorganize simultaneously. It would be more likely that someone delivered all of Coinbase ETC nodes and, quote, surrounded them. Still, Burns suggested in an email to CoinDesk that regardless of the situation's origin, companies providing services for Ethereum Classic should take steps to protect their users. Quote, the best course of action is for businesses and exchanges using any Ethereum-based chain to increase the number of confirmation blocks to greater than 400 blocks, he wrote. In response to the deep reorg, Kraken announced in an incident report that it was increasing the number of confirmations required to make an Ethereum Classic deposit. Bitfly told CoinDesk that it was likewise taking this action. Poloniex announced it was disabling ETC wallets, and it does not currently have a firm timeline on when they will be re-enabled. Responsibility. The Ethereum Classic Twitter account claimed that the excessive hash rate may have come from a crypto miner manufacturer, Lindsay, who reportedly confirmed it was testing new machines with a 1400 megahash per second hash rate. However, in an email to CoinDesk, Lindsay Shenzhen Director of Operations Wolfgang Schiral pushed back, saying, quote, we are categorically denying such claims. They are entirely baseless and may be part of the attack itself. Whoa, that's a pretty wicked assertion, dude. The company has not yet launched its first product, he said, adding, quote, if we were to test our ASICs, we would never do that on any main net. We would do that on a test net or a private net. We would most likely invite independent industry figures like David Vorick or Anthony Lusardi to observe what we are doing. So there you have it. And in the next one, and I think we can go ahead and throw this one in there because it is related. Ethereum Classic's price stumbles amid suspected 51% attack. Oh, fucking wonderful. January 7th, 2019 at 10:28 UTC. The price of Ethereum Classic is pulling back as a result of a recently reported attack that resulted in a series of blockchain history rewrites. At present time, UTC is trading at an average price of $5.01, down more than 7.5% in the past 24 hours, according to CoinMarketCap. ETC had fallen to an intraday low of $4.93 at 8 UTC, which at the same time registered a near 10% daily depreciation. Yeah, I can see that deep drop, but it looks like it leveled off. I don't know. As can be seen in the above chart, the price of Ethereum Classic began to see a sell-off after it reached $5.51 at 1700 UTC yesterday, its highest price since December 26th. Initial reports of the suspected 51% attack by an entity controls a majority of the network's processing power and can then attempt to rewrite its history appeared at roughly 5 a.m. UTC, which time price was trading at $5.30 and remained stable until 9 UTC when the sell-off began to accelerate. The price would ultimately drop more than 12% at 8 UTC from a 24-hour high. While UTC, the 18th largest cryptocurrency in the world by market cap, is not the worst performing cryptocurrency of the day, it is noticeably underperforming the major cryptocurrencies. At the time of writing, ETC is the only cryptocurrency out of the world's 20 largest to report a 24-hour loss above 5%. For reference, Bitcoin is reporting a minor loss of less than 1% today. And there you have it. A little bit of price action on the news of the reorg, which again, I think there's some sort of credence with regard to this stipulation that it might have been caused by some ASICs coming online. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that Lindsay is the entity involved. You know, there are other mining pools mining Ethereum Classic. They could just as easily have experienced some other vendor getting crazy with their newfound ETH miners and deciding to try them out on Ethereum Classic instead of Ethereum. Something to keep in mind, and this is very, very important. Ethereum is getting ready to do something interesting, I think. Now, how exactly it's going to be different from any other attempt that they've made to transition over to proof of stake, I couldn't tell you. I've been trying to do some investigation, trying to talk to miners about it, but I'm not really getting any answers. And so it leads me to believe that there's something major going on with the Ethereum miners, where they are saying, look, these monkeys want to go to fucking POS. Well, fine. We'll let them go to POS, and we'll just go to Ethereum Classic with our hashing power. Because they still want to do proof of work. And our ASICs will work on their network without any adjustments at all. Vitalik keeps playing chicken with his fucking network. And in all honesty, and I don't think it's just him doing it, of course. There's a group of developers involved in Ethereum. And that's all well and good and whatnot, but transitioning a coin from proof of work to proof of stake in my book is tantamount to a bait and switch kind of arrangement, because the miners that set up on your network, they signed on for proof of work. They didn't sign on for POS. They signed on for a proof of work coin. And a lot of the projects that are built on top of Ethereum were really, really counting on that whole arrangement with your miners, that it would be a proof of work that they would be operating under. Now, I'm sure that at some point or another there was some sort of consultation with some of the other token holders and so on. But in the long run, the biggest factor involved in any coin project is of course its miners. And I keep harping on this point because I see these efforts to try and create out of coins quote unquote service providers, and trying to corral the development of these projects and the hardware of these projects into a smaller and smaller number of hands, fewer and fewer interests. And I see this as a danger, an inherent danger, to any coin or project. Because if you don't have a diversity of participants, you don't have a diversity of interests. And if you don't have a diversity of interests, somebody is going to flex their interests in their interests. I.e. do something like a reorganization or a 51% attack. It's all about incentives. If it is more profitable to play by the rules of the game, people will play by the rules of the game. Unfortunately, the game of Bitcoin has been driven a lot out of the hands of the average person, and so we've seen greater and greater fuckery on that side of things because fewer and fewer of us are actually participating. And again, it's because the whole mimetic around Bitcoin is that, it's $4,000 a fucking Bitcoin, and so you need to throw a shit ton of money at it, at mining it. If profit is your only driver, yes, that would be the case. However, consider this: if you had, say, 6 GPUs laying around that you tied up into a mining rig, and you mined Bitcoin with it, and you had 10, 15 friends that had the same amount of hardware and dedicated it to it, you would increase the demand for the coins that are being mined. And so if enough of you actually joined in like that, it would up the difficulty rate for even existing players. And it would also increase the relative value of Bitcoin, because now it costs more to make them, or mine them rather. And this effect trickles down to the rest of the market. You have some people that are pre-selling their coins, but they aren't accounting for events like what I'm talking about, where globally some 5 to 10,000 new miners could come onto the network with, say, 6 GPUs of their own. Do you think that's enough to up the rate of difficulty on the network? Maybe not. Maybe if, say, we're in month 6 of the current iteration of miners that are currently burning away on the network, and say Nvidia or AMD comes out with some whiz-bang consumer grade fucking mining card that is just tits out, and you fire up 6 of those, all of a sudden you might be some sort of competing factor. The indication of this fluctuation on Ethereum Classic's network, what I take it as is that, number one, Ethereum Classic needs more fucking miners. But number two, and more important, is that somebody has something new with regard to mining that is able to get that much further ahead of the rest of the network. And so these 1400 megahash per second machines, I would wager to bet there is another vendor with an equivalent level machine. And again, Lindsay may be in fact innocent, not trying to deceive anybody. In which case, again, you got to wonder. IBM, Intel, Nvidia, there's a number of other vendors out there that are making mining gear. And so the likelihood that one of them would try and get that far ahead of the network or see how good their stuff works, sure, use Ethereum Classic for something like that, only because you want to mitigate whatever kind of risks you're actually introducing to the network. And with Ethereum Classic, it was caught relatively quickly, I might add. But nonetheless, it did happen. Now imagine if that had happened on, say, Litecoin or Bitcoin. You would notice that big ass spike in fucking hash rate. But that I think is I've been commenting a lot on mining, and I really believe that more people need to be doing it, and that these currencies, cryptocurrencies, they're meant to scale with adoption. And what adoption means is dedicating some hardware, electricity, and some bandwidth to a coin, whether it be just running a node or actual miners. But some sort of skin in the game, and that's where it's supposed to be drawing its value from, not some just arbitrary valuation, that people are willing to pay. That's certainly an aspect in any market, but it's worth a lot more to people that are actually participating in it than those who aren't. In the way it develops, events that happen on the network, those mean way more to people when you're actually dedicating hardware, electricity, time, bandwidth to the effort. I guess that's why I harp on it so much, that a lot of the memetics of the articles you read about developments and stuff going on in this space, they don't usually include you in them. They don't say things like we, they say things like I, like, Ripple's going to do such and such a, not you're going to do such and such a with Ripple. And I think that memetic fog, semantic fog that's being introduced is having its intended effect. A lot of people don't think of themselves as participants coming into this. They think of themselves as like entitled beneficiaries or some shit like that. Like, oh, the network exists for me to build my shit on top of. No. The network consists of self-interested beings, and their interests might be different than yours. Got to keep that in mind. Anyway, this one I wanted to get into because I've talked a lot about unconventional markets with regard to cryptocurrencies and how people have been utilizing them in the stead of conventional exchanges. And so, this one's kind of pertinent to that. It's on news.bitcoin.com. FBI and Homeland Security agents raid tech campus over unauthorized crypto trading. This is authored approximately 8 hours ago by Avi Mizrahi. And so, Mizrahi, my apologies, Avi. But I'm going to assume by the name, yes, penis. U.S. federal law enforcement authorities are amongst the most active criminal agencies, yes, they are criminal agencies, globally amongst cryptocurrency infractions. A new example of this is that FBI and Homeland Security agents have reportedly raided a technology campus over unauthorized cryptocurrency trading. Unauthorized crypto trading. According to several media reports from Grand Rapids, Michigan, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Homeland Security Investigations, and Internal Revenue Service have raided a not-for-profit technological education group in the city on December 21st, 2018. The head of the organization, the National Science Institute, originally named the Geek Group, now claims that the reason for the raid is that he was commercially trading in cryptocurrency markets without the government's authorization, according to a recent local TV report embedded below. Chris Bowden reportedly said he thinks he might be sent to federal prison and needs over $100,000 for legal expenses. Quote, "I did a stupid thing. I made a bad decision, so I'm going to pay for it," Bowden is recorded saying. Well, that's like an admission of guilt, dude. You gotta plead the fifth. On Saturday, Bowden announced, quote, "Going out of business sale on Facebook, everything goes. We have to completely liquidate all of our assets to close down the nonprofit. There will be nothing left. The proceeds will go to paying off our gigantic mountain of debt." Regarding the case, he only provided this message, quote, On the advice of legal counsel, I will not comment further on the government's ongoing investigation. Why not? Fucking warn people, dude. FBI HSI among most active in the world. This case is only the latest example of the U.S. authorities being amongst the most active globally against cryptocurrency infractions. Recently, Kraken released statistics about the global breakdown of its subpoenas from the authorities during 2018. While the exchange reports that just about 20% of its clients come from the U.S., the country represented the absolute majority of requests for information it had to handle from all over the world. Following the United States, 315 subpoenas in 2018 was the UK, with just 61. In fact, the FBI alone issued more requests than all UK authorities, a total of 67. HSI was even more of a burden on the exchange, with 91 information requests. Yeah, tell them to go fuck themselves, man. What the fuck can they do? Let's see here. Anyway, so yeah, let's get into the comments because they look kind of interesting so far. The first one is from Robert Lefebvre. How many money laundering banks did those government agents drive by on their way to make the arrests? As far as how many of them will deposit their checks at banks that have been fined for money laundering, I would bet all of them. It's hard to find a bank that hasn't. In response to that, from J Stores. Come on, Robert, that's not a defense. The community needs to be smarter if it wants respect. Don't become low-hanging fruit. That's how to make it in the crypto trading exchange business. We want to be treated as a legit industry, not a fringe operator. Blah, 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 blah. Yet we're not willing to comply. Of course, money laundering is happening at the FDIC-insured banks. It can't be avoided. Oh, that's bullshit. It can be avoided, J Stores, but the feds overlook it. There's a difference there. The feds know it's impossible. That's a bunch of bullshit too. They just want to see effort, not making an effort. Even basic requirement, proper registration is just asking to get pumped. You know what? Fuck you, dude. You know, the fact of the matter is we didn't ask them to come and protect us. They just came to us because we were moving money around and they said, oh, we regulate that shit. No, they don't. The only reason they are left with the illusion that they do is because nobody is bothering to challenge them in court. Now, let's see here. Let's see here. I was just looking over some of the shit here. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the first author was correct. That basically the whole fee and registration bullshit, it's just turned into that, what's that fucking dance? A mambo dance, you know, where you got to get under the bar, or limbo dance, where you got to get under the bar, and you know, as long as the banks can act like they can get under the bar, or I don't know, this would be more like hurdling, or not long jumping. What's that? Pole vaulting. It'd be more like pole vaulting. You know, the banks, the fact of the matter is they can't actually pole vault. You know, they hire somebody that looks like they can pole vault. That guy pole vaults for them. Everything is cool as far as the SEC, the FDIC, OCC, NYDFS, any of these people are concerned. You know, everybody got their payola, everybody got their cut, their registration fee, their license fee, their I don't know, their what's that fucking word? Commission. You know, they get their little tax on it, and everybody's happy. But the fact of the matter is that their protections aren't actually needed. The SEC has absolutely no place regulating the ICOs or telling us how to do ICOs. It's true. It's absolutely true. And the reason being is that ICOs, for the most part, and those that this doesn't apply, maybe the SEC has some sort of call, but check it out. For the most part, all of these ICOs are based on funds, or are being funded by legitimate, confirmed sums of Ethereum. Investors dedicate Ethereum to it, and they hold it and spend it as they need to. They usually have some sort of spend schedule that they disclose. They usually have some sort of reporting requirements specifically to the investors in the ICO. And that's not difficult for them to do. Now, of course, if they're not doing any of that and they're just pissing through their Ethereum, they could be easily claimed to be fraudulent. But in many of these enforcement actions, I'm not hearing about the party in question liquidating high sums of Ethereum, except for in a few cases where former bankers were involved. There's one, the name escapes me at the moment, but I actually reported quite extensively on it. And as a matter of fact, you don't hear about it all that much anymore. But anyway, they had structured their whole shit in such a fraudulent way, and they ended up having their auditors quit on them, and all kinds of shit happened. I want to say it's Tezos. It might be Tezos. Anyway, the point being that people that don't intend to fulfill, they don't bother to plan to fulfill. And it doesn't have anything to do with the NYDFS, the SEC, any of these organizations. It has to do with the dev group involved. If they're planning to eventually hit a wall and maybe hope that the funding will be enough to hire a decent dev to get them out of the hole, I couldn't tell you. There's a lot of that underpants gnomes business model of collect underpants ? Stage 3 is profit. Stage 1 is collect underpants, stage 2 is ? Stage 3 is profit. That's like that's the lifeblood of Silicon Valley, is that business model. Is first we'll gather up some money from the VCs, and then we'll do something, and then we'll make profit for everybody. We're finding out a lot of these quote-unquote blockchain projects are actually suffering a much higher rate of failure than quote-unquote ICOs. But like I said, the SEC and these other organizations, they should not be the determining factor as to whether or not your thing fails or succeeds. If you're acting in good faith and you are producing, they really have no reason to call on you. But, of course, you can't avoid that whole rigmarole and just start a fucking coin of your own. I know some people are averse to that because, it requires actual community participation, and you want to be the recipient of all the fucking money, and you want to be the rent seeker involved and the gatekeeper involved. You don't want anybody else to make money. Fuck them. Well, when you say that to people, they become that much less interested in your product. And I still see instances of Craig Wright actually selling people with that pitch, and it drives me up a wall. It makes me think that the people that I'm interacting with are actually paid to be that fucking stupid. I mean, they talk about things like maximalism. Dude, this is an open space, or this whole space is based on open source software. So, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, you can't sue anybody, because if you do, it's going to be brought into question the fact that you're working off of prior art. Regardless of how many patents you tried to stack on top of it, that some regulating entity was willing to honor or put forward, because they didn't know the difference. They didn't know what they were regulating. They had no idea what the fuck you were talking about. They just signed off on it because you actually had the registration fee. it's going to be an interesting day in hell if any kind of calamities were to occur before this gets all resolved. And I think it will get all resolved. That people will come back to reality and understand that they actually have to adopt these as like part of their lifestyle and not just something they're gambling on. That if you really want a coin to be successful, you have to develop a market where it is used. And so people kind of question how Verge or why Verge gets together with people and starts partnerships and whatnot, is because they want to handle the transactions for that organization. They want to be the default means of transacting. Now, will they be the only means? I think Verge is one of the few communities that doesn't talk about maximalism. So it's like we don't really give a fuck, because the fact is we can do it as good, if not better, than many, many, many of the options out there, and we can do it privately. So, if you want to do it privately, you want to do it pretty fast, do it with us. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I haven't played any Lamb of God tonight. Here it is, Erase This, here on Coin Metal. And that was Nothing Phase with Can't Wait for Violence. Yeah, and I think the markets will see plenty of that coming soon enough. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. It's been a pleasure, and I really do appreciate your support. You'll be able to find me on Twitter and on Facebook, also the Telegram and Discord chat rooms for Verge Currency until Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody's going to do it for you. Thank you very, very much for listening, and you all have an excellent evening. As far as our last dance is concerned, I haven't actually picked anything out yet, but there's one song that I think that we can squeeze in here. Where the hell is it? That one's probably just a little bit too short. I don't know. Maybe if I chew air for another minute or so. And I don't know how fair that would be to you guys. I mean, I can do it. I mean, it is my show, but I think I can just do this one instead. And it's been a long time since I played this song, and I really like it. And so here it is, 9 Inch Nails, March of the Pigs. Thank you again for listening, and you all have an excellent evening.